Hello my friends, I'm Duchess and welcome to my YouTube channel. For this week's video, I decided to draw Persephone and Hades from Lore Olympus, the webtoon. Let's get started. I am a huge fan of Greek mythology, and I have been since I was in elementary school. I always loved reading and I always checked out the max number of books from the library. I liked all types of books like semi-keys mysteries, contemporary romances, friendship stories, etc. My mom knew I loved reading, so she would often buy me books to read, which is how I was first introduced to Greek mythology. I don't think she knew much about it, but she just thought I'd like the books, so she bought them for me. It was the Goddess Girls books by Joan Holub and Suzanne Williams. They're about goddesses as young teens, and it gives great backstories of the actual goddesses and gods of Greek mythology for kids. It was extremely enjoyable, and I loved the art. I mean, look at them. Aren't they so pretty? I don't know, I loved it so much. So the first book of the series that I read was Hades and Persephone. I became hooked with this cute love story of theirs. After this, I looked for Goddess Girls books in school magazines and at book fairs, and so I have a few of them, but not too many. A few months ago, I went to Barnes & Noble's and I tried to buy the whole Percy Jackson series, but they were missing a few books, so I don't have some of them, but I will get those when I can. Then, in middle school, a good friend of mine recommended Percy Jackson, The Lightning Thief. At first, I didn't really care for it because I was like, I already watched the movie, dude. Big mistake, because the series was 119 times better than the movie. I fell in love with the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan, and I read the Roman series that came after. Then, in high school, I was introduced to Webtoon through an ad on Snapchat, which is where I later found Lore Olympus, and I absolutely loved it. I think it tells the stories of the Greek gods and goddesses in a more detailed way. It's not for kids because it actually includes some pretty dark parts of the actual myths. The author was able to incorporate many components into her webtoon like love, friendship, mental health, etc. It's an amazing webtoon, and I have learned a lot about Greek mythology from it. In Lore Olympus, the relationship between Hades and Persephone is a bit different than you'll find in other stories, but it's unique and interesting in its own way. They both live their own lives, and their lives soon become intertwined one fateful night. The romance between them doesn't blossom until much later because the webtoon covers a lot of Greek mythology and drama, not just Hades and Persephone's story. I wanted to draw Hades and Persephone from Lore Olympus because their character designs are incredibly unique, and I thought it'd be fun to draw them this way. It wasn't actually as difficult as I thought it would be to draw them, and I really liked the way that it was turning out. The sketching and line art was pretty easy and quick. The coloring and shading probably took me the longest as usual, but that makes sense. I had two references for this drawing. One I got on Pinterest for the pose because I could not figure it out from memory, so I had to use a reference, and I got the other reference directly from the webtoon. It was a screenshot. It was a specific scene that I wanted to draw because the background was so calm and pretty looking. I thought it would be nice to add some background since I need more practice doing that. This scene took place right before the storm. It was like their last moment of peace before things got out of hand and everything went downhill. In this webtoon, I really like Hades' character. He's such a gentleman, he's hardworking, and he's just really kind. Honestly though, in almost every story, webtoon, or comic that I have read about Greek mythology, Hades was portrayed as a really amazing guy, whereas Poseidon and Zeus are like the biggest douchebags ever. I think the only version that didn't portray him as nicely as the others was the Percy Jackson version, but we only saw Hades for like a brief moment in the first series. In this version, Persephone is clearly very young and she acts like a teenager who's just really confused and struggling with what she's supposed to do in her life, which probably makes her really relatable to a lot of people. Hades is always there for her when she really needs help, and that's how they grow closer in this webtoon. It's a really sweet but really long story. I am almost done with this drawing now. I was really excited to add the lighting because it's nighttime and the moonlight lighting is always so beautiful. I like to experiment with the light and try to make my drawings more dynamic and colorful. I'm done, and I hope that I was able to capture their beauty and their personalities with this drawing. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys this week. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you found it entertaining, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get notified. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next week.